What's up, journeyers? Dun, 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 dun. Okay, something weird happened. Oh, there we go. Okay, sorry. I was like, what just happened? I couldn't see the comments. I needed to see the comments because you know I love to see you guys. Welcome to our Tuesday live training. It is August 17th, the day after my husband and I's 9-year wedding anniversary. I tell you what, we got to like the 4-year mark, and I was like, okay, this is officially the longest relationship I've ever been in. And even the one before that was that long was actually like on and off, right? So 9 years we've been married, which is such a blessing, and yeah, just super fun. So welcome to today's Tuesday Live training. We are talking about how to budget and or cash flow plan with irregular or inconsistent income. It was really interesting to me. I had somebody I was talking to last week about what's going on with their money, and she was like, I made $10,000 last month, and this month I've only made 100 so far, and so my bank account's just completely empty. And I was like, okay, where's the $10,000? And I see this so many times where when you get 1 month that's really, really good, and you get really, really, really excited about all of the things that you get to do with your money, and you do all of them, and then the next month something happens and maybe it's not as great of a month in business, or maybe you are in like a commission-based business, right? So like you're a realtor, maybe you sell cars, or any other kind of sales-based business, and you just don't have a great month. And then you go, oh my gosh, now I can't pay the bills, right? And it is this weird cycle of like ups and downs that just gets really frustrating. But when I talk to them and I say, okay, so what do you do in terms of like cash flow planning? And, I use the word budget, right? And they're like, well, I can't budget because I don't have consistent income. I can't budget because my income's irregular. I can't budget because every month doesn't look the same. My answer to that is because every month is different, because you have irregular income, because you have inconsistent income, you must have a plan for your cash flow. You absolutely must. Because if you don't have a plan for the cash that's coming in, guess where that cash is going to go? Right back out, right? So if you have any kind of situation where you have irregular or inconsistent income, listen, guys, even people that work shift work have irregular or inconsistent income, right? People that depend on tips have irregular or inconsistent income. Nurses that work shift work and sometimes get overtime have irregular or inconsistent income, okay? So this is not just entrepreneurs. The only people who do not have irregular or inconsistent income is the people who are 100% salary-based workers, who have no income in addition to that, who don't get commission-based bonuses, who don't get that, right? So there's a lot of people who are impacted by the idea of irregular or inconsistent income. So let's talk about it, because you cannot tell me that the only people who can have a budget and the only people who can create a cash flow plan are the people who are 100% salary based with no bonuses, no commissions, no additional income. You cannot tell me that, okay? So we're going to talk about it. So what do I mean when I say irregular or inconsistent income? So I've kind of briefly mentioned, I'm talking about things like commission-based, right? Where especially like I think about realtors all the time, because if you, only salaried people have consistent income, right? So if you are a realtor and you have a month where 5 different clients sell, Kim, where 5 different clients close on their house, right? And you get your commission checks for 5 different houses. You could make $30,000 in that month, right? Where you're like, woo, this is a great month, right? More if you're selling more expensive houses, right? Then the next month, no closings, zero closings because the timing's just not right. People need a 45-day close, whatever it is, right? And so the next month you make 0. And then the next month you make like 10, and then the next month you make 50, and then the next month you make 0. Okay, that's a super irregular and inconsistent income. You also might have an irregular income if you work tips based, right? Because if you have a bad week, right, or people just like aren't coming in, aren't tipping, right, you have irregular income. Okay, entrepreneurs, irregular income just means that you don't get paid the same day every month, and it means that you don't get paid the same amount every time. It means that every month looks different, every paycheck looks different, everything looks different. Okay, and so how do we cash flow plan with irregular income? Kim, I have to know the story of why you're trying to stop yourself from telling your husband to F off. I need to know the story. You can DM it to me. I just want all the tea. So how do we do it? How do we do it? So there's a couple of steps to this that I want to walk you guys through. The first one is basic. The first one is you have to know your baseline requirements. Crystal wants to hear the story too. You have to know your baseline cash requirements for your household, meaning how much money is required to run your house. Okay, I have one client, it's $2,000, right? I have another, it's $4,500. Okay, everyone's household is different. How many kids you have changes that, right? How much groceries you buy changes that, right? But what is the baseline that you require in order to run your household? Okay, so this is housing, transportation, utilities, clothing, food, gas, right? What are the basic things, right? And I'm not saying just your bills. Think about groceries, think about gas, think about going out to eat a couple of times. What are the basic things you must have to run your household? Now, you can also take that one step further, create a baseline, and you can create like a baseline plus, right? Baseline plus is what's our baseline that we require to have the lifestyle we want also, right? To be able to go out to eat a certain number of times, to have a certain amount of money for entertainment, a certain amount of money for fun money, right? So what's your baseline? What's your baseline plus? Okay. Know that number. That is step one. Okay. Step two. Step two is to create a savings account. Now, this savings account is a special savings account. This is not an emergency fund, okay? The purpose of this savings account is not to deal if your car breaks down. It's not to deal if there's some other kind of emergency, okay? You have an emergency fund for that. You don't have to call it an emergency fund, right? Some people believe that they call it that. They're calling it emergencies. I actually find it's the opposite. When you don't have it, that's when emergencies happen. The purpose of that account is to turn emergencies into inconveniences, right? Your car breaks down, it's going to cost you $1,000. Who cares? You've got $10,000 in that fund, right? Who cares? It's just an inconvenience. It's just annoying that you have to go without your car for a week, right? That's an emergency fund. That is different, okay? This separate savings account is what is called a hills and valleys account. The purpose of this account is to help level off your income and make sure that you always have enough for your baseline. Okay? So you're going to take that baseline or the baseline plus, it's up to you. You kind of know where your income's at. And you're going to take 2 times that, double it. Okay? Take 2 times that. You don't even really need 2 times. 1 is usually enough, but take 2 times that just in case, especially if you're solely commission based where you might have a couple of months where you don't have any income, right? So take 2 times that baseline amount and put it into this Hills and Valleys account, okay? Now, once you've done that, the purpose of the Hills and Valleys account is just to level off your income, okay? So if your baseline, let's say, is $5,000 and you have a $30,000 month and you're like, woo, you're going to have $5,000 that you take for your month. You're going to have $10,000 that you put into this Hills and Valleys account to get it started, and then you have $15,000 left. And now you can go down your priorities list, right? For your finances. What are you trying to do? Are you paying things off? Are you saving, right? Are you investing? What are you doing with it, right? Pay your taxes. Then the next month, you have a 0 month. Well, you have $10,000 in your Hills and Valleys account and your baseline is 5. So you take 5 out of your Hills and Valleys account and you use it to take care of your baseline expenses and what you need to take care of. Okay? So there's still 5 left in it. The next month, you have a $10,000 month and you're like, woo, $10,000. Awesome. 5 of it is going to be used for your base. The other 5 is going to be used to bolster your Hills and Valleys fund right back up where it needed to be. The next month, you have a $50,000 month. Okay, hear me out here. You have a $50,000 month. 5 of it you're going to use for your baseline. The other 45, because you have that 10 there in the Hills and Valleys fund, the other 45 is yours. Pay off your debt, save, invest, whatever it is that you're working on with your money financially, do it. You still have enough in your Hills and Valleys account that you could go 2 more months without income and you'd still be fine. Okay? Do y'all see what that is? Y'all understand what I'm saying? Hills and valleys. It's different than emergency. You do not take money out of your hills and valleys fund to take care of emergencies. That's what the emergency fund is for. Okay? Now, if you go 2 months without income, you deplete your hills and valleys account, you're into the 3rd month, and you still don't have income, guess what you have? You now have an emergency. Is it okay to now take money out of your emergency account to take care of your expenses? Absolutely. That's what it's there for. So should you have an emergency fund first? Absolutely. Is this the same for people in baby steps too? So if you're following Dave Ramsey's baby steps, Dave says $1,000 is your emergency fund. Dave absolutely recommends Hills and Valleys accounts for people who have inconsistent income like this, especially the realtors. And for Dave, he recommends like, not like, oh, I might make $100 more next week than I made this week. No, like you may go months without income. That kind of a position, especially like realtors and sales positions, he absolutely recommends Hills and Valleys even in baby step 2. Yeah. Yes. It's different. It is not an emergency fund. It is completely separate from your emergency fund. Okay. So here's the thing. This is what happens is people get with irregular income, they have a great month and they just get excited, right? They get super excited and they maybe pay a bunch of debt off or they do something really big, right? And then they go the next month knowing full well that there's no guarantee on their income. And then it's just a bad month. Everyone has bad months, right? Everyone has not great months. And then they have nothing to take care of their basic expenses. Okay. So the purpose of this, imagine what happens then. So what happens then is you go into this month where you now don't have anything to take care of your basic expenses. Your business isn't necessarily going that well. You're not selling houses like you normally do. And then you start to get like panicked, right? Now you're panicking. Now you're freaking out. Now you're worried. Now you don't know how you're going to be able to pay for groceries. Now you're having literal panic attacks over spending $100 at the grocery store. Okay? Imagine how that would feel if you actually had your baseline expenses in a savings account, ready and raring to go for times when you didn't have income. Now, how do you feel? Now, how do you feel about the fact that that person on the sales call said no? Okay, just keep going. All right, next, right? The purpose of this is to give you margin between weird months and also to free up what's happening in your heart, to free up the emotions that are getting really heightened when the income isn't coming in. Okay. This is especially important for people who don't have consistent income, especially if you are an entrepreneur and you are 100% responsible for generating your income, right? It is water off a duck's back. You're just like, oh, okay. Well, kind of sucks, but we're okay. And because we're okay, I can just keep going. I don't have to get panicky. I don't have to get desperate. I don't have to drop my prices in hopes that people join, right? I don't have to do any of that because we're fine, right? That is the purpose of this. So is it safe to say this generally falls in line for commission and tip-based incomes, not hourly? Generally speaking, yeah. Unless you are so high rate, unless you are super as needed, where like 1 week you could get 5 hours and the next week you get 40 and 1 week you could get 0, right? There are jobs like that where like they just don't need you this week at all. So if you are in a position where your income could ever have a week where you get almost nothing, then this definitely would apply, even if you're technically hourly. Yeah, you know what your scenario is, right? You know what your situation is. You know whether there could be a week or a month that you make 0, right? It's possible. Now, I know the question that is going on, at least probably in Rachel's mind and possibly Lisa and maybe other people, is where does this fall in the sense of like scarcity versus abundance, right? Because there's this thought that if you plan for the worst to happen, then you're calling that in, okay? I don't believe that this is planning for the worst to happen. I believe that what this is doing is creating margin for yourself so that you can emotionally focus on abundance. Because how can you focus on abundance if your bank account is at $52 and you need to buy groceries? How? It's so difficult, right? And so having this plan for how you're managing your cash flow allows you to create emotional margin and create space so that you can continue to just focus on abundance, so that you can continue to focus on what's going well, right? I know so many people who had these like 10K month, 0 month, 10K month, 0 month, 30K month, 0 month. And they were so emotionally distraught over it, right? They had 1 month, Tracy had a month where she did so well. And then the next month, she was halfway through the month and had made zero and was super stressing about it. Okay. So these hills and valleys, these roller coasters of income, it is emotionally so draining. Okay. So imagine what happens now when you're able to create this hills and valleys account that takes care of the hills and valleys and levels them off, right? Levels off your hills and valleys. And even like, so the example I gave of a $5,000 baseline, maybe you have a $3,000 month. Okay, just pull $2,000 out of the hills and valleys account, right? You're just aiming for baseline. And then anything above baseline is when you get to just go crazy, right? Do whatever you want. And so it's evening that out doesn't just even out your money, it also evens out your emotional state around your money. Okay. Having a plan for it, knowing that the money is there, knowing that you can just take a deep breath and trust that the money is there. If you go, let's say you're 6 or 8 months into this and you have had your baseline at 2 months and you've now had multiple months in a row where you were so far below that you have completely depleted it, then you have a really good month and you go, you know what? I'm going to put 3 times my baseline in there just in case, right? That's okay. It's not scarcity, it's wisdom, right? It's just saying, you know what? Reflect and refine. I've reflected on kind of how this was working for me and it didn't really work that well at this level. I'm going to push it to this level so that works a little better, right? You get to decide what that looks like. If you want to start with a 3-month baseline in there, go for it. You know what your pattern looks like, okay? So hills and valleys, taking care of that, giving yourself margin, not only financially, but emotionally to handle those incomes and outgoings. The other thing is when you know your baseline, and you have irregular income, you will also need to be very clear on when money needs to come out. Okay. When are your bills due? How often do you buy groceries? All of these things, because that's going to tell you at what point am I going to need to dip into my hills and valleys fund to pull money. Okay. So let's say the beginning of the month, you get $3,000 in income that comes in right in the first week of the month. And you're like, whoa, great. And you get to week 2 and you're like, oh, I don't have any, week 3. And then you go, okay, you know what? My electric bill and these other things and groceries are going to need to come out in the next 2 weeks. And I don't have any foreseeable income yet. Okay. Now I pull the $2,000 out of the Hills and Valleys Fund. Okay. Or you get to the end of the month and you don't have any foreseeable income and your rent is due the next month. Go ahead and pull it, right? And just keep track of it. When you have income above and beyond your baseline, you replenish the Hills and Valleys Fund. So you have a number for where that goes, whether it's 2 times your baseline usually. And then once you get above that for the month, then you just go crazy. I don't mean go crazy. Go crazy on your goals, right? Go crazy on what you want, right? So that is the whole point of the Hills and Valleys type fund and cash flow planning on irregular income, is to create that emotional and financial margin so that your inconsistent, irregular months don't freak you out so much, right? So know your baseline, get 2 times your baseline or baseline plus fun money, right? You know your level of, enjoyment of life that you want, right? 2 times that into an account for the purpose of leveling off your income, okay? Anytime you make above that, you can spend it on your financial goals. Anytime you make below that, the Hills and Valleys Fund will help you support your baseline needs until your income goes back up, okay? Now, the last thing, and then so that Hills and Valleys 3 is know when stuff needs to be paid so that you know at what point am I going to need to go ahead and dip into this account, right? The last thing is, good. The last thing there is, I lost it. A prioritized list of what you want to do with the money. Okay, so if you do have a $50,000 month, you get to that point, you've had this Hills and Valleys, you've managed it, now you have a $50,000 month, and 45 of it is for you. What are you doing with it? What do you want to do with it? Have a list. Already know. already know. I want this $5,000 coaching program. I want this $5,000 purse. I don't care. I want, I have a $45,000. I want to replace my husband's vehicle. Whatever it is, have a list of the things that you want in priority order. So not buy the cheapest things first, not buy the most expensive things first, just the priorities, right? And so if one of your top priorities is replace your husband's vehicle and you're going to need $25,000 for it, and you have 10, you have two options. One, set that $10,000 aside to wait for another 15,000 to get to that 25, or do something else on the list until you have more. Okay? But have a prioritized list. When I do get above and beyond what I really need, what do I want to do with it? Okay? So the next time somebody tells me I have an irregular income, so I can't budget, I can't cash flow plan, stop it. Okay? Step one is create a budget around what your baseline is. Step two, create your hills and valleys fund so that you can manage your low income months. Step three is know when things need to be paid so that you can make sure you know when you need to dip into that account. And step four is know what you want to do with the extra. Because when you do have extra, you get to do fun things. And you can even have at the top of that list is our first extra $200 always goes to a big date night, right? I don't care. Pick what you want to do, right? Pick what you want to do, but have a list of what you're going to do when you do have the extra so that what doesn't happen is, holy crap, I made $50,000 last month and I don't know where any of it is, right? That's the scary part. That's when you go, oh, what have I done? Right? I don't want you to have that. So have a plan for it. Okay? I hope that was helpful, you guys. This is the kind of stuff that we talk about. Like this last 2 weeks has been a little bit more on the like coaching side versus like inspiration side of really helping you with actual practical steps of like, what do I need to look at to quit my 9 to 5? That was last week. Or what do I need to look at if I have irregular income? I want you guys to have this. This is that more in-depth like coaching type of stuff that we do inside of my programs. This is what we do, is what are the actual practical steps that I need to take and how do I do that, right? And this is what we're doing in Infinite Impact, which starts next week. I'm so excited. We're going to talk through how do I get this awareness around what's actually happening in my money? Like, how do I figure out what I'm looking at? How do I know what I'm trying to accomplish? What is my baseline? What is my Hills and Valleys fund going to be? How does that really need to look for me? Right? And how do I create a cash flow plan based on my life? Then we start taking that, we start getting our head in the game where our mind is right about what's going on with our money. Our values are aligning with our decisions, right? Where we're actually getting really excited about the things we're accomplishing. And we start to trust ourselves with our money. We start to be confident about the decisions that we're making. Then we learn how to harness the power of our income because your income is your most powerful wealth building tool. And when you have these amazing months and you don't have a plan for your money, that's when the money disappears, right? So I'm going to show you, how do I make this plan? How do I prioritize my financial goals too, right? We're going to learn how to save intentionally. We're going to learn how to invest mindfully, and we're going to learn how to align every single one of those things with the impact you want to have in the world, because that's what it's really about. I talked about that yesterday, right? That it's not really about piling up cash, right? It's not what it's about. It's not about diving into your coins like Scrooge McDuck. It is about creating impact with your money in a way that just builds ripple and ripple and ripple and ripple and ripple. It just goes out and out and out forever and ever, of the people that it impacts, of the lives that it impacts, of the generations that it impacts, when you learn how to not only get control of your money, but do so in a way that builds massive wealth for massive impact. So if you want to know more about Infinite Impact, we start next week. Doors close Sunday night. Okay. So, oh, Crystal, thank you. Doors close Sunday night. If you want to know more about it, you can go to the link. I'll drop it in the description. If you want to just message me, just message me and we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it. We can jump on a call, whatever you need to do, but the doors close Sunday night. I'm so excited. Oh, basic information. It's a 12-week intensive with a full 12 months of coaching. Every other week, we're jumping into a call where you actually get to like bounce ideas, talk about what's going on with your money, and have that support for a full year, which is so, it's gonna be so good. I'm so excited. All right, guys. Well, I hope that was super helpful for y'all. I love you guys so much. I love our Tuesdays together. If y'all need anything, you know where to find me. always ask questions, always celebrate your money wins. Remember, we have new hashtags. I posted about it yesterday, so go check out my video from yesterday to see more about that, because I want us to be celebrating the impact that we're having, and I want us to be celebrating our money wins. I want us to be learning about how to cultivate wealth. I want all of the things. I want us to be enjoying our journeys along the way, right? All right, guys, as always, trust yourselves and enjoy the freaking journey. See you in the group.